Chapter 1. How to Hold the Yarn and Needles. Knitting is a constant dance between yarn, needles, and the knitter. It is a delicate balance between speed and accuracy, where tension is the key to consistency. There are almost as many ways to hold the yarn and needles as there are knitters. This chapter will cover two of the most common methods, English style and Continental style. Technically, English style refers to holding the working yarn and its tension in one's dominant hand, while Continental style refers to holding it in one's non-dominant hand. In most illustrations available, due to much of the population being right-handed, English style appears to be holding the yarn in the right hand, while Continental style is holding the yarn in the left. For consistency's sake, this chapter will also utilize the same illustration of English right and Continental left. However, left-hand dominant knitters are in the unique situation of choosing whether they want to say they knit English or Continental, and nobody would be the wiser. English style knitting. Every knitter holds their yarn and tension slightly differently. There is no right or wrong way to do this. There is a right and a left way to hold the yarn, however, and that is the main difference between English and Continental style knitting. It is recommended that new knitters attempt holding the working yarn in both hands to determine which is more comfortable for them. Spreading the tension of the working yarn over the hand is also something that is different for each knitter. Some knitters will wrap the yarn only around the index finger, while others will weave it between all their fingers. Most knitters who work in English style will hold the yarn in their right dominant hand. They may feel this gives them more control over the yarn itself, or that it is simply more comfortable in their right hand. Tip number 2. There are a variety of videos online of knitters demonstrating their method. Search How I Knit to find them on various social media and video platforms. Holding the needles themselves can vary by knitter as well. Some knitters will manipulate their needles with only a few fingers, while others will incorporate their palm to cover a larger area. Beginners may attempt to knit a few stitches with their hands in different positions until they find one that is comfortable for them. Additionally, the way one holds the needles or the yarn while learning to knit does not necessarily have to be permanent. It is entirely possible to learn by using what is comfortable at the time, then later, perhaps after seeing another knitter's method, learn a new one. Another way of holding the needles that is more common in English style is using a pencil grip on the right needle. The left needle remains stationary in this method, with the right needle doing all the manipulation of the yarn. Continental knitters are not excluded from holding the needles in this manner. However, it is a smoother action to knit this way in English style. Continental style knitting. If a knitter is more comfortable using their left, non-dominant hand to hold the working yarn, they are using the Continental style. Continental knitters have all the same options for holding the yarn and needles as English-style knitters. They are simply mirrored on the left side. Left-hand dominant or cross-dominant beginners may find that holding the working yarn in the left hand comes more naturally than in the right. Left-handed or non-dominant knitters, rejoice! Continental style might just be for you. Tension your yarn around your hand or finger in whatever way feels comfortable on your left hand. Some of the fastest knitters in the world use Continental style. One benefit that Continental style provides is, when combined with the picking method for creating the stitches, covered in the next chapter, it can be much faster than English style. Many speed knitters hold their yarn in their left hands, even if they are normally right-hand dominant. The reasoning is that yarn placement in the left hand is optimal for creating the stitches with minimal movement. Continental knitters can shift between a knit stitch and a purl stitch, also covered in the next chapter, quickly, making textures, such as ribbing, a breeze. Tip number 3. The fastest knitters in the world are Continental pickers. Miriam Tagles set the world record with 118 stitches in 1 minute. Working with knitting needles, English or Continental style. Knitters can reference this section later once needles have been chosen and they are ready to begin. Chapter 2 can be referenced for step-by-step instructions on specific stitches. Basic steps to knit with straight needles. Step 1. Cast on the desired number of stitches. If unsure how to cast on, choose a method detailed in Chapter 3. Step 2. Ensure the needle with the cast-on row is held in the left hand. Step 3. Knit or purl the stitches from the left needle to the right needle. Step 4. Once all stitches have been worked, move the needle with the stitches to the left hand and repeat steps 3 through 4. Basic steps to knit with circular needles. These instructions can apply to both the standard-size circular needles as well as the short or mini circular needles. Step 1. Cast on the desired number of stitches. Optional. Place beginning of round, BOR, marker. Step 2. Join in the round, being careful not to twist the stitches. Step 3. Knit or purl all the way across the round. Step 4. Pull the right needle through the work so the left needle goes into the new round. Step 5. Repeat step 4. Basic steps to knit with double-pointed needles, DPNs. Step 1. Cast on the desired number of stitches. Step 2. Split the stitches evenly onto 3 to 4 DPNs. Optional. Place the beginning of round, BOR, marker. Step 3. Join in the round, being careful not to twist the stitches. Step 4. Using the remaining DPN, knit or purl across the first DPN. The first DPN will now be free of stitches. Step 5. Using the free DPN, knit or purl across the next DPN. Step 6. Repeat step 5. Picking versus throwing the working yarn. In addition to English-style knitters and Continental-style knitters, there are also pickers and throwers. Neither is right or wrong. As mentioned previously, the most important factor is what is comfortable for the knitter. Most new knitters learn to throw before they learn to pick. The more exaggerated movements of throwing the yarn around the needle is easier to see and understand. Tip number 4. The combination of your knitting style and the way the yarn is made can affect your gauge. A right-handed knitter, typically shown as English style, will usually be a thrower automatically due to the nature of knitting from the left needle to the right. Inserting the needle into the stitches on the left side moves the tip away from the working yarn held in the right hand. As a result, the knitter must move the yarn to and around the needle to create the new stitch. However, there are a handful of right-handed knitters who are accomplished pickers by reversing the direction they knit. By going from the right needle to the left, these backwards knitters can move the needle to the working yarn with minimal effort. Meanwhile, the left-handed knitter, commonly shown as Continental style, has their choice of either picking or throwing without much adjustment on their part. Inserting the right needle into the stitch, the working yarn in the left hand is already close to the tip, and the knitter can either move the yarn to the needle or use the needle to grab the yarn. Picking is generally considered faster than throwing. In fact, some of the fastest knitters in the world are pickers. A knitter who picks may also have an easier time switching between knit and purl stitches, as it is easier to bring the yarn forward from where the picker holds it. Tip number 5. Experienced knitters, especially Continental pickers, can knit without looking at their stitches. Ultimately, knitting should be a relaxing and enjoyable hobby. The focus should be on the knitter being comfortable, not on what is the right way or wrong way to work through a project. Every pattern can be modified. Strict adherence is not a requirement if the knitter is not enjoying the process. Each knitter should find what works for them and adapt any directions or patterns to fit their needs. Review. English style is where knitters hold the working yarn in their dominant or right hand. Continental style is where knitters hold the working yarn in their non-dominant or left hand. Circular needles and DPNs can either knit flat or in the round. Straight needles can only knit flat. Throwing is bringing the yarn to the needle while working a stitch. Picking is bringing the needle to the working yarn while working a stitch.